Chapter 57, The Deepest Sorrow, The Turning Point, and the Lesson. A first disclaimer. All persons in this book are fictional. All statements, regardless of subject, are just that, statements. Some are rooted in empirical facts, while others are pure fantasy. My goal is to strike a balance between vision and reality, between fiction and fact, in such a way that readers can recognize themselves and continue to build upon the swarm of ideas and notions. The book has no ambition to preach an overarching purpose, but rather questions accepted truths. In this way, in a Socratic manner, it leaves the rest to the reader. Let me begin with the last thing first, the turning point and the lesson. And let us tie the story to the person Hans. Father Hans. He is the father of Walter, who has done exceptionally well in the field of music, especially with his compositions and the many record releases on the German record label Eichmann. Much of Walter's success can be traced back to his father and mother. Walter grew up in a freedom-loving and enlightened home. Both parents held doctorates from the University of Oslo. Walter and Hans's sister Wilma grew up in a home with bookshelves and a piano. Obtaining a good education was highly valued, but education is one thing. Cultivation and refinement are something else, broader and more far-reaching. Father Hans played a central role as the master of cultivation in the family home. As time passed, Father Hans became a pensioner. He had passed 70 and was now approaching 75. His wife died early, while they were both in their 50s, and a bottomless grief plagued Father Hans for many years. He thought it would take many years to turn sorrow into something constructive, if that were even possible. All-encompassing grief is a downward spiral. It drains energy from soul and mind every single day. Sometimes the simplest thing is to go along for the ride downward without resisting. The motivation to change the decline does not exist. Resignation and capitulation become the prevailing state. Is there something, or someone, who can make a difference? It was about 10 years ago that Father Hans was at the absolute lowest point of his grief. His children, both Walter and Wilma, had been good and close companions during these heavy times. But it was only after a pleasant conversation with Walter's first piano teacher that a spark of improvement occurred. The conversation revolved mostly around Walter and his outstanding talent, alertness, and creativity. Father Hans agreed and explained that his son had been encouraged to ask questions, while at the same time being urged to think independently, to use knowledge for his own development, and to create something new from everything he learned. This had been the family's mantra for years. Sister Wilma had naturally been raised with the same mantra. This made the whole family intellectually robust and exceptionally adaptable in all social situations when facing the outside world. Walter's former piano teacher was impressed, but very concerned about the heavy sorrow Father Hans was carrying. Could he be of help? Just having a pleasant conversation with you has been of great help, replied Father Hans. Toward the end of the conversation, the old piano teacher mentioned something almost trivial about regular practice, a kind of reflex from his many years as an educator. They sat and talked a bit more about this. What does practice help with? Why do you get better and better through regular practice? The answer was obvious and self-evident, just as obvious as breathing air into our lungs every second. Imperceptibly, a light was lit in Father Hans's mind. He knew this very well, but it had almost become irrelevant because it was so obvious. But when the elderly piano teacher said, "Just 5 minutes a day is enough for a tiny bit of progress," Father Hans found the right motivation, the right inspiration, to make a plan, an achievable plan. He saw it immediately. He had an unused exercise bike standing in the garage. He would bring it into the apartment. From today on, he would haul himself up onto it and pedal for just 5 minutes. with no resistance on the wheel, just turning the pedals easily. Then he would keep a journal, make a log with date, training time, resistance, pedal load, and so on. Father Hans was fortunate in his choice of timing, because this illuminating idea came the day before the winter solstice. It would be perfect to start this project in parallel with the days, indeed. The entire 24 hours, growing brighter and brighter. A double motivation. Father Hans set his sorrow a little aside, turned on the radio, tuned in to the classical channel, and found the Brandenburg Concertos by J.S. Bach. Cheerful, life-affirming music filled the room. He sat down on the bike. Now he was underway. Day 1 was a resounding success.